Hello and welcome to Ashwana's massive open online course. My name is Pankaj Kumar and today we'll be talking a little bit about our testing types and techniques. So let's see what testing type means. Um, every test objective, which is about why do you want to carry on with the testing. The basic why question is the answer to our test objectives. So test objectives can be related to a couple of features. It could be related to the functionality of a feature. Say for example, any banking URL or UI that has a functionality of login with a valid ID and password and successful login. That's the functionality of a feature. Non-functional feature of the component or system could relate to, say, how the system behaves when thousands of users log in at the same time at the URL. So these are a couple of examples. So this is when we have the test objectives, and that's why we have drilled down the testing types into 4 levels. um, Now these 4 type of testings are the means to focus on each and every specific test objective, and they're pretty much flexible. As you know, there are test phase or test levels, which are component testing, integration testing, system testing, and final acceptance testing. So in each of these test phase or levels, you could have these 4 type of testing carried out very easily. So the first one means functional, which is primarily the black box testing. Now what do you mean by black box? It's something that you cannot really see inside the box. So if somebody has written a code for this bank UI, you don't really know what was the code written in there, but you definitely know whatever the requirements were and what are the features expected out of those bank UI. Then there are some business processes as in login, then fund transfer, log off, view balance. Those are certain business process. So these kind of testing are part of our functional testing. The next one means non-functional, which I have discussed a little earlier, which means pretty much about the non-functional behavior of performance, how the system performs, the load testing, whatever happens when you have too much volume of data flowing in, what happens when you have multiple huge number of users flowing in, um, security testing, accessibility testing. Those all come into non-functional testing features. Let's move on to the next one, which is structural. It's more sort of white box testing that we do. Now herein we are more interested about the actual code that was written to build the product, and we test the codes. It's more code centric kind of testing, which was exactly opposite to what we had in the functional above. These days we are having something similar to gray box testing, wherein we are not only concerned, the testers are not only concerned about the features and requirements and business process for testing, but they also have to be very technical and then get to know about the actual code written there. Then there are certain change related testing that we carry on, which is retesting. Now what's retesting? Say you have carried out some testing for a product, and you found that the login login field doesn't accept certain valid characters. There must be something faulty with the code. Then you raise that as a defect, and then the developer fixes the defect, and then now the fix has been deployed. Then the tester wants to retest the same scenario, maybe with multiple different data, and then find out if that defect was fixed properly or not. That's called retesting. uh, on the similar line, regression testing, it's one step ahead of retesting. Say for example, once the login defect has been fixed, the tester would definitely want to see if that hasn't broken the code of any other functionality. Say for example, submit button. So you do a mild regression or a full-blown regression depending on the scope and behavior of the system and the project scope. That completes our testing type. The next one is testing techniques. There are a couple of testing techniques that we have right now. Um, these are the different approaches that we follow, different tools you could say, which helps in your test execution, or maybe even planning. So the first one talks about static technique, wherein we have reviews and walkthroughs. Say for example, you have written a test plan, so you would want all your stakeholders, especially our developers, the BAs, the designers, and also the requirement find gathering team, or the initial sponsored stakeholders. Everybody has to be aware of what the planning was while preparing the document. And that's when we have different reviews going on. There are certain reviews for the codes as well. There are code reviews, there are some BA reviews also for the codes. So these and walkthrough is when one person just walks you through the maybe steps or demos or the plan of that nature, and then these are to get the approvals and then bring everybody, all the stakeholders on the same page. The next one out there is what we have called dynamic techniques. Now in dynamic techniques there are various multiple tools. Out of these I have picked just one, which is equivalence partitioning. That's very easy for us to understand. That might be a first step as a beginner for us. uh, Say for example, the example we have is any XYZ bank. It gives 3% interest on, say, balance range $0 to $100, and then if you go up higher than $100 balance, then the bank provides you interest rate of 5%. So something similar on this line. While testing, you would not be in a position to test all the data which is 0 to through 100 and maybe even higher. It's impossible to test all the data while testing a particular test condition or a couple of test conditions or even more. So what we do is we divide the partitions, and we break the data on the edges, and also carrying on with the invalid partitioning, which means the negative validations, and going for certain ranges on the boundary edges and also in between if possible. So if you look at the example here, the invalid partitioning we have got is the balance should be less than 0. So because our data part starts from 0 to 100 through beyond. So invalid partitioning means if the balance is less than 0, it should not give you 3% for sure. I mean, that's not a part of requirement right now in the example, but that would definitely come up in the invalid partitioning range. While valid partitioning, we have divided into two upper and lower limits. The lower limit would be $0. The upper limit would be $100, and within this range, in both inclusive, you'll have the interest rate of 3%. You could also have one in between as well, say $50, and these three examples would fit in into your valid scenarios for 3%. On a similar line, you want to have valid 5% range. So this is the limited, the lower limit you have is $100.01, right? So this particular amount onwards, you're going to have interest rate of 5%. Then you do kind of sampling, and you could do maybe 200 or 300, depending on how much higher balance, how much highest balance a user can possibly have. So these are the range of data that you might want to test, and that helps as a tool for all the testers to uh, categorize the data and then have the testing optimized, rather than spending time over testing each and every data, which is quite impossible in this fast moving world of software development and testing. So that was all about what we wanted to discuss in our assurance massive open online course technical for testing types and techniques. I hope the discussion was a little fruitful to all of us, and I have tried to put it in a easy manner for all of us. So I would like to thank you all for your patient listening, and my name is Pankaj Kumar. Thank you and have a great day.